Shalom Haverim. Welcome everyone. My name is Frances Bilak, and I'm a member of the Greater Los Angeles Board of Directors, the Los Angeles Sapphire Society co-chair, a President Society member, and a proud active member of Jewish National Fund's Women for Israel. I'm delighted to welcome all of you to our Women for Israel author panel. Welcome to 2021. 2020 gave us more challenges than we were prepared for, but it also gave us strength, courage, and gratefulness for what we have. Whether times are challenging or times are fruitful, JNF continues to be committed to Israel and its people. JNF will always be with Israel and keep building with an eye to the future. And it's because of the philanthropy of people like you that JNF is able to continue to support Eretz Yisrael. Together, we are the most effective philanthropic movement in Israel's history. Today's program focuses on some of our very own Women for Israel. These remarkable women are authors, mothers, wives, entrepreneurs, and so much more. They are women that are involved in JNF and Women for Israel supporters and major donors and leaders. I want to acknowledge and thank our speaker series committee who helped with all of this, as well as our WFI leadership. Sarah Cannon, who's our WFI chair, Dina Singer, my Sapphire co-chair, Betsy Rosenthal and Maureen Shapiro, who are High Society co-chairs. I also want to give a deep thank you to our JNF professionals, Sharon Joy and Lisa Shaul. We recommend that you view this program on speaker view. Usually it will be on the right-hand corner of your screen. You'll notice two options, gallery view or speaker view. Choose speaker view so that you can easily follow each of the speakers and authors. Also, all of you are muted. If you have a question, please use the chat feature and text it to Lisa Shaul. That'll be on the bottom of your screen, and send a question. We're happy to answer any of these questions if time permits. So here's to a year where Corona is only a beer, where tears are on layer cakes, and bubbles are relegated to champagne and bubble baths. And now it's my pleasure to welcome a dear friend of mine, one of our other Sapphire Society members, Terry Merman Steinbach.
Thank you, Frances.
You're welcome.
Nothing brings me more joy than to gather with like-minded female Zionists. Golda Meir once said, "Make the most of yourself by fanning the tiny intersparks of possibility into flames of achievement." That is exactly what we, Jewish National Fund's Women for Israel, are, and this is what we do. Throughout my philanthropic journey, I have learned that for me, the hardest thing about fundraising is the actual fundraising. That said, it is also the most important. It's why we're here. Israel, this tiny little speck on the map, is filled with our Jewish brothers and sisters, their children, and the future of our homeland. With so much of the Israeli government supporting the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, which of course is crucial, Jewish National Fund serves as Israel's backbone. We are building a nation that ranges from community building, forestry, disabilities and special needs, Israel advocacy and education, research and development, heritage sites, water, and so much more. JNF is currently building a culinary institute, more playgrounds, resiliency and medical centers, water facilities, and we're bringing arts and music and culture to all the frontiers of Israel. And there's more. JNF is creating a very vibrant and modern society. I'd like to cite a few examples that turn our vision into reality. Number one, the Alexander Muss High School in Israel. This is a life-changing journey for high school students who connect with their Jewish roots. They build lifelong friendships. They develop independence. They earn college credit by studying in Israel. They don't just learn history, they actually live it. By the end of the program, the next generation of Jewish leaders become strong advocates for the state of Israel. And then there's Special in Uniform. This is an innovative program that integrates youth with disabilities into the Israeli Defense Forces. This is so important, particularly when 1 in 8 people in Israel have a physical or a mental disability. This program was founded to give everyone an opportunity to fulfill their potential and contribute to society, regardless of any disability anyone has. Special in Uniform goes beyond the walls of IDF bases by helping its graduates integrate into the workforce and Israeli society in such meaningful ways. Then there's Nefesh B'Nefesh. This helps thousands of North Americans move to Israel and make Aliyah. They find great jobs, warm communities, and live in a holistic Jewish life in Israel. Aliyah is on the rise, and according to the Israeli government projections, 90,000 Olim are expected to make Israel their home this year, 15,000 of whom are coming from the US, facilitated by Nefesh B'Nefesh. And let's not forget that we are populating the Negev in the south and the Galilee in the north. Known as the frontiers, these areas will flourish and bloom into Israel's future. These examples don't even begin to scratch the surface of what we do. The breadth and depth reach far and wide as we build tomorrow's Israel today, so it will thrive for generations and generations to come. Today, we come together as Women for Israel to continue to ensure the physical, spiritual, and economic safety of our people in Israel. Whether you are able to donate $360 to join the Women's Alliance, $1,800 to be a High Society member, or join me and become a Sapphire Society member with a minimum $5,000 gifts. But all donations matter, small or large. We invest your money wisely, and together we will make a huge impact. You are about to receive a text and an email. Please click to donate or go to jnfusa.org/LA authors. Thank you so much for joining our JNF family. Upcoming events will be emailed out tomorrow so you can continue to join us and stay engaged with WFI. We look forward to connecting with you more in the future. And now it is my pleasure to welcome my friend Sarah Cannon, our Los Angeles WFI chair, member of the JNF Greater Los Angeles Board of Directors, and also a member of both the Arts and Entertainment and Gaza Envelope Task Forces. Sarah, take it away.
Thank you so much, Terry. And today I'm honored to be the moderator with 3 very remarkable and special women. So let's get started. Will each of you please tell us a bit about yourself and what you would like our audiences to know about your books? Each of you has about 2 minutes to answer. So we're going to start with Marcia. Marcia, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Sarah. And thank you for giving me this opportunity to participate in a program that supports JNF. This is the most difficult question for me when I have to talk about myself. During my business career, I wrote hundreds of marketing research reports and marketing plans. So when I decided to write a historical novel, I thought, hey, no problem. However, when a friend sent my manuscript to 3 different literary agents, the replies all came back the same. Great story. Someone teach this woman how to write a novel. So I started on a journey. taking classes at UCLA on how to write a novel. I read lots of books about character and plot development. And for 6 months, I engaged a writing mentor. And then I traveled back to the city of Victoria, where in their archives, I examined original documents from the Middle Ages. I wrote and rewrote my manuscript 67 times. And then the publisher's editor reviewed my work and had some really excellent suggestions. So after 12 years of research, writing, and editing, I finally was able to write a story that is well crafted with interesting characters and an uplifting message. So now you know I'm a woman of perseverance, unending capacity for learning, and immense gratitude for having written a book that has been so well received by reviewers and readers. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're going to move on to Betsy. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you, Sarah and JNF, for inviting me to be on this panel. And I just have to say my involvement in JNF came about in the first place because our youngest son, Joel, participated in the Alexander Muss High School in Israel program, which Terry mentioned as one of the things that JNF funds. In terms of my journey of becoming an author, so I wanted to be an author since I was little. And I even have a copy of the very first book I ever wrote, Greg and the Magic Lamp. I wrote it when I was in elementary school, and for some reason my mom saved it. So all these years later, I still have it. It was terrible. Instead of pursuing writing for a living, though, I took a slight detour and I went to law school, which is what brought me to Los Angeles. But I couldn't really use my passion for writing creatively in the briefs and the legal briefs and other legal documents that I had to work on. And now I like to say I'm a reform lawyer and that I'm finally fulfilling my childhood dream of being a writer. So at this point, I have 6 books for children published, and a 7th one is due to be released in 2022. Currently, I'm keeping busy working on the edits for that one, for the one that's coming out next year, as well as writing a biography for children. A few of my books grew out of funny things that my kids did, so I have them to thank for some of my ideas. And over the years, I've also written essays, personal essays, which have probably most of them have been inspired by the antics of my family. Many of them have appeared in magazines and newspapers, and I've ghostwritten a couple of books. So when I am snug in my little cubbyhole office, in which I'm sitting right now with a mug of hot coffee, and I'm pecking away on the computer, I am in my happy place.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, Natalie, it's your turn to tell us about yourself and what you would like our audience to know about your books.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and thank you all for having me. Betsy, to your point about when your kids do funny things, the other day I'm speaking on a new app called Clubhouse, all about audio, talking about asset protection, and my little 2-year-old comes up and says, "Mommy, stinky, diaper." So it's talking about funny things happening with your kids. God bless them. My name is Natalie Alicia Gold, or as I go in JNF as Goldberg. I am Sam Goldberg's wife. Together with my darling husband, we are World Chairman Council members. And a little bit about me. I'm a wealth and asset protection attorney. What does that mean? I ensure that your life, love, and legacy is preserved for the next generation. I have offices between New York, New Jersey, California, and Colorado, all of where I'm licensed, and have started getting lots of associates in different states as well, like Florida, Texas, Minnesota, Illinois, Tennessee. I'm a busy lady. That's why sometimes I go by Natalie Nation, trying to take the nation by storm and do good work for all of the families out there. So with this work, I'm a 5-time best-selling author, and I have spoken on many stages, from being, on stage back in the pre-pandemic days, which I hope will be soon, also in the post-pandemic days, and between Fox, CNN, CBS, all the major networks, as a legal and women's empowerment moderator. My books have literally led me to those stages. And I think the most important thing it led me to was my husband. Because my first book, The Millennial's Guide to the Universe, I was called and we're like, look, In Santa Monica, there's a thought leadership conference. It's happening in 3 days. Will you come and speak? Sure, why not? I go and I get on a Jewish app after to maybe see if I can meet someone in LA, not thinking anything of it. Who should find me on that app? But a man I met 2 years before at a Central Park JNF event, my first JNF event ever. What the heck is JNF? Was at that time, I didn't know. And this guy was sitting at the table and kept on asking me about trust in estates. Nobody is that interested in trust in estates. I said, is he trying to hire me or date me? Either way, maybe it's okay. Long story short, 3 months later, we're engaged at the hotel. And thank God now we have 2 amazing daughters after. So it is such a privilege to really step into your power and do that book that has always been calling to you and what it can lead you to, literally your partner in life and your children, and showing that legacy that you want to leave in the world. So thank you so much all for having me.
You're welcome, welcome. My next question is about the inspiration to become an author and selecting a topic. And so Betsy, we're going to start with you. What was the moment in time that made you go from being a civil rights attorney to writing children's books?
Well, first of all, the reason I ended up in law school instead of trying to write for a living was at least partially influenced by my parents. They were always telling me that because I was constantly arguing with them and seemed to relish a good argument, I'd make a great lawyer. Not to mention that they thought it would be a good idea for me to have a profession that would allow me to support myself. So I didn't become a writer professionally in the beginning. As I said before, I went to law school. And when it came to actually practicing law, the field I was most interested in, and of course it was the lowest paying field in law, was civil rights law. I wanted to fight for the underdog. And at the time, I had the most fabulous job working as the Western States Counsel for the Anti-Defamation League. But after our second child was born, I decided that I wasn't quite cut out to be what was called at the time a super mom. So I chose to leave the law behind, stay home to raise my kids, and return to my first love, which was writing. Spending so much time sitting in a rocking chair reading a gazillion books to my children led me to want to try writing the type of books that I enjoyed reading to them and that they would enjoy listening to. So I took some classes in writing for children at UCLA Extension and became part of a writing critique group about 25 years ago. We're still meeting. I'm with the same couple of women. And I started at that point, I started writing and rewriting and revising, and then began submitting and getting rejection after rejection. So it was a long road, but eventually I started getting published. Publishers started to accept my work. And so here I am a number of books later, and I'm still writing and loving every minute of it.
Okay, thank you. Natalie, you're an attorney with a background in finance and a woman who is passionate about educating other women to take ownership of their finances. What was the turning point for you to want to put this all in writing and become an advocate for women in that way?
Sarah, I feel like it was my purpose to walk into that path. My first book, The Millennial's Guide to the Universe, literally gave my roadmap of how I did college in 2 years with a 4-year degree, double major from a top university, and then went to law school for free. I don't come from a wealthy family. I didn't have the resources to be able to write it out and figure it out. I had to do it quickly, and I cracked the code to give other young millennials, Gen Z, the opportunity to do the same thing by a roadmap of how to get there. Then when I became a mom, my second book, Money Mama, was about the basics, because here's the truth. Statistically, 9 out of 10 of us women survive our spouse. And almost no one is prepared around just the basics. And that's why I wrote that book, a very easy read, less than a 2-hour read. Here's your manual, everything you need to know on a basic level. And the other books came to me, for I Am Ruth, which was my first children's book, was a tribute to RBG. A week after she passed, which was a Friday, it was the 25th of October, I think, or September. It's all coming together, in the pandemic world. We don't know what day it is, but I was like, this woman has done so much, a Jewish woman, the loudest voice on the court, although she wasn't huge imposter, she's huge, huge giant. And I wanted to write something to encourage young girls to know that they can do it too. Because Ruth started out as a little girl on a Brooklyn stoop and what she was able to do. And my most recent children's book is I Love When It's Mommy and Me, because as a new mom, it was hard to be that super mom, Betsy, to your point. Doing it, having a career, and you're also trying to be a great mom. And I wanted all moms to know about the love that we sometimes forget that we're giving and receiving back from our children. So it truly has all been inspired by life lessons for me, Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Marcia, having had a long career as a marketing consultant to financial institutions, and also having a PhD in executive management and marketing strategy, what about that trip you took to Spain compelled you to write at Victoria?
Great question. Great question. In 2006, during our 3-week trip to Spain, my husband and I and another couple had visited many places in Spain where during the Middle Ages, Jews once lived. Toledo, Seville, Tarazona, Tudela, and so on. In these places, Jews experienced pogroms, forced conversions, and much more. It was only in the city of Vitoria where Christians did not enforce the laws against Jews. And by the way, these laws were the prototype for Nazism. But in Vitoria, there was some degree of integration, especially by Jewish physicians who took care of sick Christians, and specifically during a pandemic when the Christian doctors fled to the hills, left the city. Okay, fast forward, 1492, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella expelled the Jews from Spain. The Jews thought the expulsion order would be repealed within a few years, and then they would just go back to Vitoria. That's why, just before the Jews left, the Christian leaders of Vitoria agreed to take care of the Jewish cemetery, which was absolutely unheard of. Although the Jews never returned, generations of Christians preserved the cemetery for almost 500 years. This was the story. After we visited this site, I couldn't get this story out of my head. And my girlfriend, who's on this call, she and I were sitting in the backseat of the car, chit-chatting only about Victoria now. That was it. When I got home, I talked to my dad, and he suggested write a book about it. And so I did. So my inspiration was the story itself of Victoria and how the Christians and Jews worked together. But the motivation came from my father. And that's why I included my maiden name in the signature of the book. So I say to you, everybody has a story of their own that can inspire a book. And you can do anything with that inspiration. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, a question involving COVID. How has it impacted you as an author? And what, if any, silver linings have you realized from it? Natalie, let's start with you.
For me, honestly, thank God, I'm very blessed. It's been fabulous. I've gotten 3 books published since COVID started. Clearly, I've answered my pants. So, and my mother always said to me, don't you know how to relax? I'm like, don't you know me? I'm your own kid. Of course I don't know how to relax. But that's who I am. And to your point, Marcia, about, your father that's how my father was too. Very kind of tough. And Sarah, it's been great. And I also have encouraged other women to share their stories. So one of the books I haven't mentioned was an anthology of 20 lawyers that we met on LinkedIn because of the pandemic around the country. And I said to them, I'm going to guarantee all of you that you're going to be a best-selling author by the time I'm done with you. And we put that book together, and lo and behold, I kept my promise. So, just having the knowledge of how to do it, put it out there. And I also started a publishing company, by the way, during it, because, I had one more thing I wanted to do. And, but being able to now have these 20 women say I'm a best-selling author, it's amazing.
Okay, anything final you want to say?
Just that I love Sharon Joy, I love Sarah Cannon, I love Dina Singer, and I love Lisa Shaul. And they're fabulous. Thank you all for everything that you're doing for this amazing event.
All right, thank you. Now, Marcia, how has COVID impacted you as an author? Have there been any silver linings surfacing as a result of the pandemic?
Well, I hate what COVID-19 has done to so many people and to our way of life. But as an author, I would say COVID has had some positive outcomes for me. Self-isolating, and I'm very compliant, so self-isolating has given me more time to write my next book, which is a kind of a cross between historical novel and a memoir. It's about a murder that occurred in my neighborhood in South Chicago when I was a teenager. And COVID has allowed me more time to reflect on how this episode, as well as other events and people in my life, have caused me to go in one direction or another, precipitated course corrections in my life, or drove me to pursue specific goals like being an entrepreneur or going back to school, or when I was 71 to publish at Victoria. I think COVID also has increased my gratitude and definitely was a catalyst for me to accept my regrets as a part of life, all of which I'm incorporating in my next book. COVID has confirmed to me that it is never too late to embark on whatever path you want to take. And the more paths you take, the more gratifying your life will be. And with that said, I just want to tell you that it was my daughter, Debbie Kornberg, who's on this call, who in 2017 inspired me to begin this more involved journey with JNF. So I'll just quell a little bit here and say that Debbie is amazing because in addition to providing online cooking events through her company, Spice It Up with Deb, and importing herbs from Israel through her company, Spice and Leaf, Debbie is also the current president of JNF San Diego. How much more quelling can I do in 2 minutes?
Okay, thank you.
Debbie, I want you to take a bow and I want you to feel me hugging you, COVID or no COVID. This is what moms do.
Excellent, excellent. All right, Betsy, we want to hear from you about how you've been affected by COVID.
Well, being required to stay at home is not such a bad thing for a writer, first of all. It means that I have fewer excuses for not writing. Since I'm no longer having to put on nice clothes and drive to and from various meetings and classes, I end up with all this found time that I can, or at least I should, put towards what I call BIC, butt in chair. And one of the downsides of COVID for me as a writer has been the closure of all the libraries. Lately, I've been writing mainly historical fiction, and to do that, to do it properly, I need to do intensive research. I can do a lot of that online, but there are certain resources that I just can't access online. So it pains me that I can't go into a library. Also BC, before COVID, I was giving presentations at schools and libraries about my books. Since I write for children, I'm often invited to appear at schools. And I used to at least go to conferences pretty often. Since the schools are closed, I can't do in-person author talks. At least recently, though, this was something good that came out of it. The LA Public Library had me do a virtual storytime program. So that worked. I mean, we do what we can. Also, I miss schlepping my laptop to my favorite coffee shop. It's my Cheers kind of place where everybody knows your name. And I used to go there regularly and spend entire days writing and schmoozing with the other regulars there. So that's closed. That's not a possibility. I've somewhat replaced it with a weekly morning Zoom meetup with a group of writers. So we go online, we check in on Zoom, we check in, catch up. and then keep our Zoom room open for about an hour while we write. Then we reconvene and say our goodbyes. And we even had special t-shirts made up with the name of our group, and that's our uniform that we wear on Friday mornings when we meet. So that's been a nice thing. And since I can't go to my coffee shop, I've learned to make a decent cup of coffee, and I drink it out of one of my special mugs that helps me get in the zone and reminds my husband, who's also working at home now, to leave me alone. So I'll just this is one of my favorite ones I'm holding right now. And it says, please do not annoy the writer. She may put you in a book and kill you. And I can just hold that up when he comes over to the door of my office and let him know, no, I'm in the zone.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm curious. What was your most memorable moment as an author? Marcia, is there a proud moment that stands out for you?
Thank you, Sarah, for giving me this opportunity to talk about it. I love this question. I've had so many wonderful moments relative to writing at Victoria. However, if you ask me to cite the most memorable, it would have to be when the city of Los Angeles recognized me for writing at Victoria and honored me for documenting the benefits of community diversity, tolerance, and working together, which is far superior to prejudice. By proclamation, the Los Angeles City Council put at Victoria in the LA Public Library system and in school libraries. And it has become a reading choice for high school seniors in some of the Los Angeles public schools. However, the very close seconds in the category of memorable events are the book clubs and speaking events like this JNF program, where I'm able to share what happened in Victoria, because for me, it is the sharing of this amazing story in any venue, which is the most rewarding.
Thank you, thank you. Now, Betsy, how about you? Any standouts?
Yeah, actually, when I won the Children's Literature Council of Southern California Award for Poetry for my book, Looking for Me in This Great Big Family, it's the book I've written that is the nearest and dearest to my heart. It's a middle grade novel in verse about my mother's childhood as part of a huge Jewish family of 12 children growing up in East Baltimore during the Depression. So there was an event that was held at the Skirball here in LA, and I had to give an acceptance speech. It was a very tough day for me because I had to go up on the stage and talk about the book and accept the award the day after my father had died. So I barely got through it. I was in tears while I was giving my acceptance speech, but it was a great moment because I was able to thank him for passing on his love of words and writing to me, at least posthumously. And then it was gratifying because this book, Looking for Me, went on to win a number of awards. And I'm so grateful that I was able to collect my mom's memories, since as I mentioned, it's all about my mom's childhood, and create this story out of them before it was too late, because she eventually got Alzheimer's, which erased all her memories, but at least I've got them in this book. And so I would have to say, beyond a doubt, that was my most memorable moment as an author.
Thank you, thank you. Natalie, what memorable moment about your journey as an author stands out the most for you?
You all have heard already how it put me on stage, and that's how I ended up reconnecting with my husband. And we got married at the Skirball Center, actually, Betsy. And how the books have put me on the shows, and that's great and amazing. One thing was with Money Mama had just come out, and I was asked by a friend who I'd met in high school. She was a teacher, now a high school teacher at a very bad school in New York. And she asked me to come speak to the kids. I said, okay. I go in there and I see the classroom is almost all boys between 16 and 18 years old, almost all Black and Hispanic. And I said, oh my God, they are going to think, you white privileged woman, how dare you speak to me and tell me about what I'm going through. Within literally that 45-minute classroom, I saw those kids for who they are, and I told them about the secrets I had learned and how they could do anything that they wanted to do. To have 16 to 18-year-old boys crying after this instance, it really, it's one of the biggest gifts you can give, is shedding light on someone else and saying, I see you and you can do it too. Sorry, I guess my hormones are still out of whack from all the pregnancies. But yes, that was my most impactful moment.
Thank you, Natalie. That makes me cry too. Okay. Finally, is there anything you want to add about your books? And of course, where can we find them? Betsy, let's start with you.
Most of my published books are picture books, so they're for elementary school age kids. The last two are animal themed and they fit with the STEM school curriculum. If you don't know what that is, it stands for science, technology, engineering, and math. So one, which is called An Ambush of Tigers, a wild gathering of collective nouns, is included in the National Teachers of Science Association textbook. So I'm really proud of that because what they're doing is they're using picture books to teach these science concepts, and they've included that book in their textbook. Then the other animal themed book I have out is Porcupine's Picnic, Who Eats What? And that one's a fun story that teaches kids about the different types of animal eaters, omnivores, carnivores, and herbivores. So these are the books that I'm usually asked to present at schools and library programs. I would also like to say to suggest you look out for my next novel, which, as I said before, isn't due out till 2022. It's called When Lightning Struck. And if those of you who are familiar, there's PJ Arway, there's PJ Library, and this particular novel has been chosen as a PJ Arway selection, because that's for the middle grade novels. It's set in 1928 Odessa, Texas. It centers around a preteen boy who's had some really bad luck in his short life and who goes on a journey of self-discovery. And with the help of his best friend, a Russian Jewish immigrant boy, he uncovers a family secret. It's historical fiction, which actually coincidentally touches on the theme of Marcia's book, because it has to do with the expulsion of Jews from Spain and the existence of converso Jews. Those were the Jews that were forced to convert during the time of the Inquisition. In terms of where my books can be found, they're online, they're on Amazon, they're on Barnes and Noble, and they used to be available in bookstores, but sadly, I don't think all that many bookstores, independent bookstores, have survived. But if any still exist after this pandemic, they have been available in the stores. So, and again, I want to thank you for having me on this panel. It's really been a delight.
You're so welcome. Natalie, I'm sure everybody's sending you hugs. We are. So I want to ask you to share with the audience anything you'd like to that you haven't conveyed yet, and as well where we can find your books.
I would like to share a little bit from my For I Am Ruth, a tribute to RBG. I believe in the future of equality. Together, united, better will be. Women should live and work as they wish, not to be trapped in a tank like a fish. Women want a career for their own to secure and the right to be an entrepreneur. There is something within me that knows there is more love, more hope. I'm made for more than just chores. Thoughts in my mind whirl and swirl. A girl with a dream can change the whole world. The song my heart sings is my true call to bring fairness, freedom, and justice for all. For if I don't stand for your liberty, then who will stand for little old me? Where will we find strength, my dear? Courage is not the absence of fear. Together we rise and we will soar. The world is going to hear our great roar. From the me to the we really must shift, or our country will be in a great rift. All it takes is a little luck mixed with work, passion, and then lightning struck. This life had chosen me, and I was going to fight for we. I ran inside to put on my robe. This girl is going to impact the globe. I place my hands on the earth. To a better tomorrow I will give birth. One more thing before I go. My name I want you to know. Notorious it will surely be, for I am Ruth RBG. And in our country today, isn't that a message of unity and of yes, we can, that we need to put out there for all men and women alike? We can't do it alone as women. We need the other 50% to hold hand in hand and make it better for us and our daughters moving forward and the whole world at large. So with that, I'm looking forward for all of your votes in 2028. And we'll see you there, folks. I'm just kidding.
Fabulous, fabulous. Okay, Marcia, including where everyone can find your books. Do you have anything else you want to share with us?
Well, I think I just want to say that it was such a joy to write this book. The words just flew out of my fingers onto the keyboard. And I was so enthralled with the story that I created the characters. Many of the characters, many are real people who lived at the time. And it gave me such a pleasure to know that I would be sharing this book with other people and this story with other people. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to give it a sales plug. At Victoria can be found on Amazon and from various booksellers there. It can also be found on Barnes & Noble and at Archway Publishing in their online bookstore. Also, if you want me to write an inscription in the front of the book to you or to somebody else, you can buy the book directly from me. And I think my website will be posted, but you can also email me at marcia.sells@gmail.com. And I'll be a bit forward here too and say that I hope that if you buy at Victoria and you like it, you'll put a favorable review on these sites, because reviews help sales. And my goal is to spread the story of the events that made Victoria and its people so special. So I just again thank JNF for the opportunity to share this story with you. And I hope that you will all think about JNF and the good works that it does in Israel and for the people of Israel.
Thank you, thank you. And I want to thank all of you so much. You've been so inspiring, and to think that you were in our midst. And I wonder, all the rest of the women who are watching this, how impressive each and every one of them is. Thank you for your inspiration. And thank you. It was wonderful hearing from you and learning about your journeys as it relates to being an author. And of course, we're hoping everybody goes online and in every way that was mentioned and purchase these books. So we have a little time, and I want to give this over to Lisa Shaul, our LA Associate Director, for questions.
Thank you, Sarah. Yes, fabulous job, ladies. We have some great questions. I will try to ask all of them, and yeah, we'll just take it from there. So the first one I have for you, Marcia, if you could please tell us about your upcoming book.
Okay, thank you. Whoever asked that question, I appreciate it. The book really takes place in South Chicago in the mid-1960s. I was a teenager, and I was all alone when a murder was committed in my neighborhood, my immediate neighborhood. And this event had a lot of impact on me, because the person who committed this crime, killed 8 nurses, really was devoid of any empathy, love, caring. But he was this way because of his upbringing. And so it's a parallel between what a person turns out to be and what a person could be. And I compare him to myself in some ways, and some of the events that I had in my life, good and not so good. As I mentioned, course corrections had to be taken, and how I've come to know myself and to understand why people do these horrible things, which is not to excuse them, because some are just inexcusable, but also how that event and other events in my life took place and created my ambition, my desire to do good, my desire to help people, and to be kind, absolutely kind to my fellow man. So that's sort of what the book is about.
Terrific. Thank you. Betsy, this one's for you. Can we hear a passage from your Looking for Me novel about your mother's family?
Okay, I have it here. Just let's see. Okay, this one, since it's a novel in verse, it tells a story through poems. So here's one. I wonder what it would be like to sleep by myself in this bed that holds three, with all of the covers to cover just me, to spread my arms wide and lie at a slant with no other bodies to say that I can't, to lie on a pillow, no feet in my face. I'd lie awake nights just feeling the space. So that's one. Let's see. I'll read one other short one because this will explain why the cover is the way it is with the Matryoshka dolls, the nesting dolls. It's called Always One More. I saw these wooden nesting dolls in a store, the kind where you don't know how many dolls there are altogether until you start opening them up, and there's always one more inside, sort of like my family. And I don't know if you can see this, but the poem itself it's a shape poem. So, right, that one.
Very nice. Thank you, Betsy. Just real quick while we're on you, I have, if you could just share the name of your writers group.
My writers group. Okay, I wonder if it's someone in my writers group who asked that question. Well, I'm in two different writers groups, but the one that I've been in for that we just critique each other's writing for children, and that's the group that I've been with for about 25 years, and that's Ann Wilson and Sonia Soanes. It's just, I mean, we used to be larger and different people have come and gone, but the three of us have remained throughout since the beginning. And then I have another group that I started meeting with much more recently, just a few years ago. And that group, that's where I read my adult stuff, because I'm also working on a novel for adults. So I get critiques from them on that one. And yeah, so.
Okay, great. Thank you. Natalie, this one's for you. Do you prefer writing children's books or money matters books about wealth? And what kind of books do you publish?
I love all of it. And it's really about, when the opportunity comes. I also like, a lot of people have been calling me recently because they know I do the books, and they're like, I've had a book in me and I don't know what to do. And I just love partnering with these people to get it out there in the world, because sometimes you just need that little nudge and truly that roadmap. Like, here's how we do it. The children's book for me are so fun. I love working with the illustrator who it's just so fun really putting it, into the world in a medium that can impact children. And the publishing house does everything. It does business books, expert books, as I like to call it. So an expert book is like, you talk about your money matters for me. You talk about real estate development, or, how to build a business and sell it, if you're that kind of expert. And those books are what then allow you to much more easily get press. And then the children's books are truly my soul's work. It's so much fun.
Amazing. Thank you. Oh, and then there was a second part because someone also did type in, what kind of books do you publish?
But both kinds. So
Okay.
adult, expert, and as well as children's books.
Excellent. Okay, ladies, have you ever experienced writer's block? And if so, what do you do about it?
I would love to take this one.
Ah,
Every single one of you has a book inside you, and writer's block is only when you're sitting at your desk and either on your computer or writing it down by hand. God bless those who do that still, right? I do. I like my yellow legal pad. Your number one book writing tool and way to get out of writer's block is right here. You put on your phone, you press record, and you speak your book. Thereafter, you send it in for 10 cents a minute. It is transcribed for you. You get it beautifully back, transcribed for $3.50. And then you edit it down with yourself first, then an editor. You can do a book like that and get it out in the world in 2 months flat.
good to know. Marcia and Betsy, I'd love for both of you to answer this as well, if either, both. Yeah, so Marcia, we'll start with you.
Okay. I'm really, I don't really experience writer's block, but a couple times I did. And what I found to be very helpful is I get up from my desk, I walk around, I sing a song, I dance to Motown, I get out of myself, and I just relax, shake it out, and it comes to me. And then I can sit back down and I can write.
Marcia, next time you're doing a dance party, can you invite me? We'll do a little Britney, and we'll have a lot of fun.
Perfect, sounds good.
Betsy, what about you?
I have to say, I've never experienced writer's block. I have writer friends who have. So I'm not really sure what advice to give about how to get out of it, because my problem is almost the opposite. I have so many different ideas of books that I want to write that I have to keep a folder on my computer just called headline ideas. And I mean, I must have dozens of ideas of things I want to write about, and I just can't find the time to write all those books. So and when I'm having trouble working out, I don't know, a plot line or some issue in a book that I'm currently working on, I'll take a walk, I'll take the dogs for a walk, and sometimes I write it in my head. I can figure out the issue or the problem in my head. So, but yeah, I guess I'm lucky because I haven't experienced writer's block, really.
That's great. Okay. I think we have time for one more, ladies. So Betsy, we'll start with you on this one. What advice would you give to a writer working on their first book?
Wow. That's a tough one, because I mean, a lot of it depends on what type of book you're writing. I would say find some other well, first of all, I think it's a really good idea to take some writing classes. If you haven't already been writing for a while, take some writing. If you're in LA, UCLA has the best writers program, so you can take extension courses. And right now with COVID, everything's going to be online. So I would say take some writing classes, and then often in the course of that writing class, you'll meet some of your fellow students, and you guys might decide that you want to form a writers group. That's how our critique group started 25 years ago. We were all taking writing poetry for children class, and that's where I met somebody who's in my writers group now. So yeah, I mean, I think getting into a writing critique group is really important, or at least it has been for me. It's very beneficial. So I would say those things. Take a class and see if you can find some other novice writers who would like to get in a group with you, and you can share your work with one another and critique it.
Terrific. Marcia, any other advice?
Well, I would say if you're writing your first book, that you make sure that you're passionate about the topic. And I know that when I was writing at Victoria, I could hear the dialogue in my head, whether I was awake or sleeping. I could hear characters talking. And that passion is what bubbled up within me. And so I would say, make sure that you have the passion for the topic or the story, and do your homework. You know, if you need to go online, get information, do whatever it takes, but do it. And you know what? It may not be perfect the first time you give it to somebody to read, but that really doesn't matter. Just press on and do it.
Okay.
And Lisa, for me, if I could just answer that, to Marcia's point, you don't choose your first book, the book chooses you. And that is, I mean, I don't think any of you really know my story. At 15, I was crossing a street and two guys were racing from light to light. And one hit me at 60 miles an hour and I was a pedestrian. And my entire left side of my body to this day has metal pieces all over. You would never be able to tell that we're surviving something like that. The doctor was like, we'll talk about you walking in a year and you're gonna have to sit out 10th grade. And I said, over my dead body, I'm not sitting out 10th grade. I'm going on the first day of school in a wheelchair at 15 years old. And within a month and a half, I was dancing and choreographing on stage. So each and every one of you has your book living within you. You know what it is. And isn't it beautiful that they say to leave the greatest legacy, you have to do two things: plant a tree and write a book. Well, we're in good company with JNF for planting trees. And now I want to give all of you the motivation to write your book.
That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. It's so inspiring to hear from you and learn about your author journeys, and very much hoping everyone will go online and purchase your books and write reviews. With great pleasure, I introduce my friend, Sapphire Society co-chair, member of the Jewish National JNF Greater Los Angeles Board of Directors and Arts and Entertainment Task Force, Dina Singer, for some brief closing remarks.
How much fun was that? Oh my God. Thank you, Natalie, Betsy, and Marcia. And Natalie, you made me cry. And I'm so glad that you did share that story. I was hoping you were going to share your personal story, which touched me very much. So thank you all. And I'm so very proud of my Jewish National Fund sisters. I love your individual stories. Each of your paths is like a Torah portion. And I'm so grateful for writers because they are the artists who paint a picture with words. 2020 has shown me that we can use more art, more expression, more things that will uplift mankind and give us hope. Being a part of my Jewish National Fund family has done just that and brought such goodness, spirituality, and satisfaction into my husband's and my life, because it touches the hearts of those it helps and those who do the helping. In that regard, I'm very proud of JNF's Arts and Entertainment Task Force and what they are bringing to Israel for all Israelis and the world. We are enriching the lives of Israelis, Jews, and others around the world through our programs, creating opportunities, and bringing joy as well through creativity. You can find out more about our Arts and Entertainment Task Force from Sylvia Caroline or Sharon Joy. And please do join us for our upcoming virtual art tour. It's called Beautify a Bomb Shelter. And that'll be on Thursday, February 4th at 6 p.m. Pacific time, 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can learn about JNF's life-saving work for the 50,000 Israelis living alongside the Israel-Gaza border. So please join us as we go on a virtual tour of bomb shelters turned works of art, and they are truly exceptional, and see how you can make a difference for the Israelis who live in this region. And we'll post the link. It's jnf.org/virtual art tour 2021. Thank you everyone for joining us today. It's so wonderful to be together. Even if it's only on Zoom, it's still very special. You are all so valued by all of us. Till next time, thank you.
הנה עוד יום נגמר בזווית מבטי מחכים שם ניצוצות מלחמה שוודאי דלקו רק מחר ועד אז אני